We are recording. Let me bring up some interesting stuff and make it even bigger and bring this guy in, and we're off and running. Spring 2020, session 1 for communications consulting and coaching. One of my favorite classes, by the way. I enjoy thinking about this stuff. I enjoy updating myself on it. I really do like the possibilities of changing and improving an organization and the way it operates, and as part of that, the way it communicates to the members of the organization. That's what this is all about. It's how do we use our professional communication skills to first to assess and then to plan and find a culturally, I mean the culture of the organization there, culturally acceptable and dynamic approach to improving how an organization runs. And there's a lot of things that go into that. That's a simple overview. And if it were easy, then everybody could do it. But I have been involved in a lot of different organizations, and I have seen good ones and I've seen bad ones. And I've also helped some organizations to be incredibly better than they were by using some of the things that we're going to be talking about in this course. So I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to hearing your experiences and your ideas, and helping you to maybe develop some other skills and different points of view that will help you to be more successful in your career, and even maybe find a new career path because you find this kind of work engaging, gratifying, and it can be very financially rewarding. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the course and about how we're going to run this thing, how we're going to get the most out of it, and how you and I are going to interact. And then we'll talk a little bit about the big picture of consulting and coaching. So what do I want to do? Come on, in this course with you, I want to talk about consulting for communications as a profession and as an industry. It's undergoing a great deal of change, but the fundamentals are still in place that organizations don't always, or don't even often, work very well. And they need smart management, communicative management, and those managers generally need help because oftentimes they come from a technical or financial background, and they're just not trained and often not interested in the sophistication of communications. They want things to be done by the right way, and they don't care who does it. They think everybody should be an adding machine or a robot on the shop floor, and it doesn't work that way. So we're going to practice and analyze. I used a British spelling there. That's weird. The consulting process, including some ways to diagnose organization problems and to address those problems and figure out what's the best approach to offer to a client who's come to us for help. We'll talk about some of the tools and techniques that organizations can use to improve performance and efficiency and ultimately success, which is often measured in financial terms. And then we're going to talk about fundamentals of consulting and how we go about that, and particularly focusing on communications and needs assessment for communications, and how do we, once we figured out what the needs are, how do we translate that into change by training management and employees to communicate better and to be more effective in the workplace. And we'll talk about issues that come up, and we'll talk about ethical issues in the consulting trade. What I want to do is create and demand of you that you be realistic. Some of you may not have had much experience in organizations, but as graduate students, you should have had some experience in work. Now, consulting can range from high-level consulting in the meshing together of two sophisticated large organizations, and that's one of the things that we'll be talking about. Or it can be as seemingly inconsequential and as simplistic as helping the manager at the McDonald's down the street to communicate better with his ever-changing population of employees, but helping them to understand what their job is, what their approach to customers is, and how to do their jobs more efficiently so they can be happier at their work and they can make more money and attract more consumers into that McDonald's. This is a graduate course. I expect good thinking. I expect sophisticated presentation. I don't accept slapdash last minute work. So if you're going to be in here and you're going to be successful, I expect you to be performing at a high level, at the highest level possible. And you can't do that at 9 o'clock on a Sunday night. By that I mean all assignments in general are going to be due by midnight on Sunday, with the exception of discussions, which will be due both on Wednesday and on Sunday. So I would suggest that you work early in the week, you review your own work, and then you submit it. Don't try and do it in one draft. I rarely do anything in one draft because that's not your best thinking. I'm here to mentor you, to give you suggestions, to give you advice, but I'm not going to provide easy answers because, frankly, if you go to work in this field, there are no easy answers. There are bad clients, there are bad problems, there are difficult situations, and you have to buckle down and analyze and gather data and be a nerdy, hardworking professional. And so giving you easy answers does not serve me well, does not serve you well. I expect your work to be agency, professional communications quality. It means no silly errors. I want everything to be proofread, spell checked, logically presented, and well written. And you'll see early on what I mean by that. I'm going to make a note that I will post some previous papers so you can see what my level of requirement is. The pace is going to be demanding. There'll be at least 3 assignments a week, some of them as long as 4 or 5 pages, and it will increase as we go along. You will be building a project in the time that we are together, and it will come out as a final project in the end. That doesn't mean that I'm not accessible. I'm easy to reach. Students have called me by phone, they text me, they send me emails, and I respond as fast as I can. I'm usually on email and text day in, day out, early in the morning till relatively late at night. So if you have a question, not how to answer a problem, well, though I would take that too, but feel free to get in touch with me. The best way to do this as an online course, since we're not meeting in person, uh, dedicate time, multiple times each week. When I was taking online courses, I would lock myself in my room, in my office, and spend 4 or 5 hours just knocking out the work for the following week. Don't try and do it at the last day, because it won't be your best work. Best thing to do is to set aside some time early in the week and late in the week to do drafts and to polish. There's going to be one major lecture like this each week on YouTube. I'll get it to you on the weekend, usually by Saturday evening, sometimes by Sunday. And then you'll have time to do that and to do your reading and incorporate ideas and thoughts and direction into your assignments. Like I said, phone or email me at any time. If you want to do a face-to-face, I'm available by Zoom or by Skype, whichever is most efficient for you. We have an interesting case in front of us. It's the case where Disney bought Pixar, the animation company, and they were two very different cultures, even though they seem to be in the same business. And we're going to talk about how they approached this, how they went through the process, and we're going to be looking over their shoulder and saying, why didn't you do this? Why didn't you do that? Here's an idea that you might have employed. So that's going to be the case study, buttressed by news reports and your just basic knowledge of Disney, which everybody has. The book is a good book about consulting. It doesn't deal specifically with communications consulting, so that's what I'm going to bring to the table. But Peter Block has been a successful consultant. He talks about it in general terms, but he knows the process of getting a consulting engagement and getting ingrained in an organization to help make it better. And he has good examples that he has used and tools that he has used. So his insights are valuable, and they will help you to progress in your consulting mindset, because unless you've done some of this, it's a different kind of work approach. The syllabus itself is highly detailed. It gives a lot of information. I recommend that you read over not the boilerplate about Brenau, but about it's probably the last 5 pages of the syllabus, which talks about the assignments and what's expected and what the goals are, and then individual week assignments with focus areas and the reading required. Due dates are on every assignment, although they are pretty much standardized to have the one posting on the discussion board on Wednesday, the second one on Sunday night. Other written assignments are due to be uploaded on Canvas by midnight on Sunday, though perfectly willing to take them earlier or to look at a quick draft if you have a problem or question. The syllabus is dated January 6th on its face, and it is posted on Canvas. It's updated on Canvas. All assignments are there, and I think everything should be ready to kick off shape. Research papers and essays need to be written well, logically presented, including not only information from the book and lectures, but other sources as you can find them. I like Google Scholar. I like the library databases for further information. If you have a particular industry that you are interested in, let me know about that, and we can focus your assignments on that industry or on a particular company in the industry. By the way, if you want to build your final project on something other than Disney, we'll talk about that. And if you're working someplace, as some of my students have been, and want to propose a consulting engagement for your organization, I'm perfectly fine with that. The requirements are the same, but you have to do more work because it's not laid out for you as it is in the Disney case. Discussion board, again, twice a week, same level of quality, no typos, well written and thoughtful. I expect things to be written properly in APA or Associated Press style for current events and current themes, current fresh words, and always be polite and considerate of others. The final paper is going to be a consulting and coaching paper where you are proposing a project for Disney or for an organization. You will be talking about changing the culture, training management, developing key messages within the organization, long-term communications projects, like creating an employee newsletter or an employee monthly video. And you are going to talk about how you would go about researching within an organization to find problems, to assess them, to provide a needs assessment, and to propose a consulting arrangement and continuing help for the organization as it goes along and implements your proposal. Okay, let's talk a little bit more about what we're going to be talking about within the consulting milieu, the consulting industry. The consultant is defined by the book as a person who can influence an individual, group, or organization. So I've had consulting arrangements where I talked just to an individual, tried to help him or her to be a better communicator, to talk to employees in a more acceptable way, acceptable for the employees. One of the interesting perceptions of management is that I'm going to do it my way, employees need to follow me. Well, it's interesting, but it's not very effective. The best communicators, the best bosses are the ones who take the employee point of view and say, how can I best talk to this employee? If you're a parent, there are different ways to talk to your different children. If you're a human being in a family, you don't talk to all of the members of your family in the same way, same voice, same language. Same thing is true in business and organization, that some people are better off if you tell them exactly what to do and you give them a checklist. Some people don't agree with that. They say, give me the goal. And I know the parameters. I know what's good and bad about this organization. I know what's ethically responsible. I will do it. So the consultant is the one who understands these ins and outs and will suggest processes and approaches to management, but doesn't have power to make changes. That's the difference between a consultant and a boss or a manager. The manager, on the other hand, is the person who has direct responsibility over an action and probably has hired the consultant because he or she is not getting the results that are expected. There may be a lack of skills, there may be a lack of communication, there may be any number of different issues that have to do with making an organization not as effective as it could be. And bosses sometimes will say, yeah, I need help. The client is the person who the consultant wants to influence. Now, that sounds a little funny, but sometimes you have to say to the person who's hiring you, let me tell you what you need to do. It's not that I'm going to fix your organization by telling everybody else how they have to obey you. It's a holistic approach. And so the consultant has to influence the client to do what is needed. But the clients don't always take that too kindly. So you have to be a persuader as well as a recommender. Finally, line managers are people who provide support within the organization. They may be the ones who think that they can do your job as a consultant better than you can, but you've been hired to do it. So it's your responsibility to get them on board. And again, you may have to approach them a little differently than you do the boss or than you do the client. So those are the three. Go on. Come on. There we go. What do we need? What kind of skills are required? Well, technical skills. First, you have to have, in our business, in the communications consulting, you have to have the technical skills to create effective, persuasive communications materials and know all of the different options that are available to you, from signage, banners on a business, to newsletters, to social media, to videotapes, to flyers inside paychecks or flyers that are connected with electronic paychecks. All of those things are ways to communicate. Now, you also have to have the technical skill of writing persuasive, valuable, impactful information. So that's a technical skill. Anybody can write something that says you should do this, but writing to persuade somebody to do something, almost getting them into the model that you need them to be in, is a different technical skill. Interpersonal. You have to be able to read people and to adapt to their kind of communication. You have to be personal, personable, and you have to be connecting. You have to be able to smile on demand. You have to say, come on, let's do it this way. Let's try this way. We have to be convincing, and you have to be a good listener. It's important to engage and to help people to learn. And that's one of the hardest things that people don't understand, is they can't have their own personality, whatever they think that is, and use it all the time. You have to adapt to the people that you are dealing with. And I don't think that's unethical. I don't think it's being two-faced. It's being multi-faced. But it's using your personality and in an interpretive way so that other people will engage with you more readily. And finally, consulting skills. You have to understand big picture down to small picture. You have to be able to understand, what is the goal of this organization? Why is it established? And how does it go about its work? Who are its competitors? What's the industry it's in? What's the Sturm und Drang, the churn in that industry that may be affecting the reason which may be part of the reason that things are not happening as management thinks it should? And how do you take all those things and bring them together into some actionable steps that can be taken over time to make things better, to help people communicate better, help people understand what this organization is about and what their role is in it? Now, finally, let's wind up with the 5 phases of consulting. According to Block, he's our guy who's going to set the stage, and I agree with most of what he says, and I'll tell you what I don't agree with him. He says the first phase is the entry and contracting. So we all have to become salespeople. I don't know if most people don't like to be salespeople, but my experience is that you have to be able to sell yourself, sell your services, sell your expertise, sell your ability to engage. And that's part of what selling is. And you can make a good deal of money. You can make a very nice living if you are able to do that and then follow through and do the consulting. But you have to be able to connect with people, I've had situations where I just, no connection. They didn't understand what I was saying. I didn't particularly agree with their approach. And so I said, maybe we're not the right people for this engagement. Other times I've had great experiences. I've had people who engaged me, excuse me, for years, literally for years, to do various kinds of communications consulting with them, and they were successful, and so I was successful, and we made great music together. We did good things together, and client was happy, and I was happy, and we continued to work together until they moved to a different business, and I changed situations. So the initial contact is critical because you don't have a second chance to make a first impression. So you have to have a certain persona that you go in with, having thought about, having done some intelligence gathering about the client and what he or she is about, what the background is, what you think is going to be appealing to them. And then you have to be able to tap dance a little bit as you engage to understand where they're coming from, what they're expecting, and what their basic need is. Why are they engaging? Why are they even thinking about getting help? So you engage and you find out what the problem is. Then, if you get hired, and it may be a short-term hiring at first, you have to figure out, how do I find out what the real problem is? Because we as humans are not always honest with ourselves. We don't always say, I'm part of the problem. If I treated people better, or if I explained better, or if I had more knowledge and I didn't have to fake it as much, I would be a better boss and have a more effective organization. So you have to understand there's some of that self-delusion that goes on. As part of your discovery, you need to talk to a bunch of different people, smart people, if you can find them, and find out, what is the issue? Why is the train not getting from A to B effectively? Why is it taking so long to get things done? What are the bottlenecks? What are the missed communications? How does that work? So you need to develop your own sense of the problem, and what, as compared to what the client thinks the problem is. And then you have to rationalize those two things. And then you need to be able to tell the client, well, we hear what you're saying, and here's 3 things we found that connect with what you said. And then here are a couple other things we found that you may not have thought about, you didn't put as much emphasis on, but we think these could be issues, and we want to talk about those. So the discovery, the dialogue, is everybody getting on the same page, figuring out, yeah, we can help you. We know what you think the problem is. Here's what we think the problem is. Let's put those 2 things together and face all of these issues at once. Analysis, come to a conclusion and a timeline of kind of what's the most important thing that needs to be done. What's the most one that's impacting the business the greatest, and let's work our way down the list from there, and talk about an engagement and how long it should take, and what kind of resources are required, how much money you're going to get paid, and document it. This talks about organized and reported. I write a confirming memo after every discussion with the client. If a client calls on the phone, we have a discussion. I write an email back saying, great to get your call today. Here's what I heard. Here's the 3 things that we decided to do. I hope that conforms with your notions, and I look forward to working forward. Please get back to me fairly quickly if you don't agree or you think that I missed something. So you're documenting and putting on paper everything that you do. The contract is going to be much more detailed and contains legal stuff, but it also is going to have basic stuff like, here's the timeline, here are the objectives, here are the people who are going to be assigned, here are the hours we expect to spend, here's the budget. It may be 10% less or 10% more, but here's what we agreed to, and be very specific, because sometimes clients will want to say, oh, but can you do this as long as you're here? Well, you say, well, it's not listed in the contract, so it's going to be a little bit out of scope. If you think you can do it without much sweat, you say, yeah, okay, I'll do it. But don't let them get into the habit of adding things. So you may have to write a change order. You may have to write an addition to the contract if there's a project that wasn't included in the original one. So set the goals, set the steps, and then start to work. Then carry it out. Go to work, get it done. Watch the hours, because you only got a limited budget. And if you spend more hours without getting approval from a client, well, you've spent more hours and you aren't getting paid for that. So remember that your hours are your inventory. That's what is your valuable commodity. Your hours based on your knowledge and your experience and your the way you can work. So go to work, get things done, have regular meetings, checklists, checkpoints, proof. Put in some sort of an evaluation to say, yeah, we got this done. I can remember one consulting engagement where we went in and did a survey of the client communications issues. And it wasn't very profound because there weren't many key targets. I think it was a very specialized financial company, and they only had something less than 20 targets. So we talked to most of their targets and found out how they compared to the competition and what was expected of them. And we gave them a graph. Simple. I can do this quickly. I'm going to draw this. It was a simple graph that looked like this. Oops. And alongside here was one requirement, which was speed to response. I mean, when somebody asked for a quote on a piece of business, they wanted to be gotten back to quickly. I mean, within 4 days, certainly. And the other one was intelligence. And we asked them, compared to who's the best in the business? And so we said, okay, the best in the business is over here. And this was good to bad, bad to good up this way, and bad to good up this way. So up here at this corner, that was the best place to be. So that was where the best, and the best of the breed was kind of in there. Our client was over here, partly because they were new and partly because nobody had done much business with them. So we said, okay, our goal is to get you to move up that way. And a year later, when we had done a bunch of communications and we had worked with their staff and we had helped them get organized and get some advertising done and other kinds of communication, yeah, we found that they were about over here when we did the same kind of study. They weren't up to the leader, but they had moved pretty dramatically, and that made them happy. And we could prove it with responses that we got. So we worked at it and we kept our eye on the ball, and it worked out. Client hired us again for another year after that, and it all worked out. But we had that important evaluation element, and that's what I say is important, is giving a client some feedback about what is going on and how we measure progress. by the way, this client had also said, I want to be on the front page of the Wall Street Journal with a very positive report on me and my company. Well, I said, okay, that's interesting. But you're in a very esoteric business. You do things in mathematical and statistical ways that most people won't understand and are not interested in. So getting you on the front page of the Wall Street Journal is going to be very difficult. However, we'll do some things that will get you in front of the people who matter to you. And we did. We applied to a contest that was held every year within the industry about being the best new company of the year. And they won. They won best company, best startup of the year. And they got a picture. They went to an awards ceremony, and we got a picture of the boss with a trophy, and they published it in the magazine that is read by everybody in the industry. So he was delighted with that. That was the kind of thing that he'd been looking for. So we were consulting and helping and getting him accolades and reorienting his thinking about what was really important and what could do his business the best. Okay, so let's get rid of this, and we'll go on to phase 5, which is extension, recycle, or termination. This is the last phase, and this is going to be the scary phase, because you've said, okay, we're going to do this for 6 months. Here are all the things we're going to do. We took care of them. We showed the progress. What do you think? Well, I wouldn't put it that way. I said, we think that there's more work to be done. We've discovered a few new areas where you might be interested in improving. In other words, hire us again. So what did we learn? What did we find out? How did we document it? And we give that to the client. We don't keep it because it's not valuable to us. And it shows goodwill. Do we extend this process to do more for the organization, to work for others in a large organization? And we've done that. We've extended from HR to marketing and to others in some organizations. And sometimes it just becomes obvious that when you work in a company, the first blush or the manager's first inclination towards a problem is not as sophisticated or as valuable or as comprehensive as one might think. So you may have to go back and say, yeah, we've discovered a few other things as we kicked over rocks or opened doors to find skeletons in the closet. So here's something else that we think needs to be done. If sometimes there's just a clash of personalities, or the client says, I don't have any more money, whatever, or the work is done and there's not much more to do. So you can terminate on happy grounds with amicable results. And you can say, can we use you as a recommendation for our next client who is in your industry? Maybe not in your industry, maybe in a collateral industry. If you have not made the client happy, you may just walk away and your final bill will be paid and never see them again. So you have to, it's a part of the gig economy. You work by your latest engagement, as they call it. So, but it's fascinating, it's exciting, it can be gut clenching once in a while, but it's very satisfactory, and it is certainly never boring. So that's it for this week. I hope my stories are not boring. They were exciting and gut clenching while I was there. And I have more to come. I look forward to working with you. Be sure and let me know if you have any problems or issues that come up, or if you have to take a business trip or have a health issue or a family problem. I understand graduate students have lives, but I find it hard to accept that you didn't know about something when you come to me at the end of the semester and say, gee, I didn't get my work done because I had a problem. Let me know as soon as you can. We'll have an engagement that way. Anyway, have a good week. I will be on video next Saturday. Take care.